Forbidden Metaphysics, full audiobook. Introduction. The hidden architecture. There exists beneath the surface of ordinary perception a realm of principles so profound, so transformative, that they have been carefully guarded throughout human history. These are not the teachings of modern thought, nor are they the inventions of contemporary philosophy. They are ancient, woven into the very fabric of existence itself, waiting to be rediscovered by those ready to see beyond the veil of everyday illusion. What you are about to encounter is not merely information to be collected and stored away in the corners of your mind. This is knowledge that demands transformation. It asks not for your passive agreement, but for your active participation in the unfolding of truth. The metaphysical laws that govern reality are not separate from you. They move through you with every breath, every thought, every choice you make. For centuries, these principles have been obscured, hidden within mystery schools, encoded in ancient texts, and whispered only to initiates deemed ready to wield such understanding. The reason for this concealment was never about power or control in the way you might imagine. It was about readiness. A blade given to untrained hands causes more harm than protection. Wisdom offered to the unprepared becomes dangerous, twisted into tools of manipulation rather than liberation. But something is shifting in the consciousness of humanity. More souls are awakening to the questions that matter. Why does reality seem to respond to certain states of mind? How do thoughts become things? What invisible forces connect every seemingly separate event in this vast cosmos? These questions are not new, but the willingness to pursue their answers without fear is becoming more widespread. The metaphysical knowledge we explore today rests on foundations laid by ancient Egyptian mystery schools, Hermetic philosophy, Vedic traditions, and countless wisdom lineages that understood reality as far more malleable, far more responsive to consciousness than modern materialism would ever admit. These teachers recognize that the universe operates according to precise laws, just as predictable as gravity or thermodynamics, yet operating on levels of existence that cannot be measured by conventional instruments. Consider for a moment how strange it is that your thoughts, which seem to be nothing more than electrical impulses in gray matter, can influence the trajectory of your entire life. How does a mental image, sustained with emotion and belief, eventually crystallize into physical circumstance? The materialist worldview has no satisfactory answer. It can describe the brain's activity, but cannot explain the bridge between inner vision and outer manifestation. Metaphysics provides that bridge. It reveals that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but its very foundation. The physical world you perceive is the densest expression of invisible patterns, frequencies, and organizing principles that exist in dimensions beyond your five senses. To understand these principles is to gain access to the controls of your own experience, to become a conscious participant in creation rather than a passive recipient of circumstance. Throughout this exploration, you will encounter ideas that may challenge everything you have been taught about the nature of reality. Some concepts will resonate immediately, awakening memories of truths you somehow always knew but could never articulate. Others may seem impossible, even absurd, until you begin to test them in the laboratory of your own life. This is as it should be. True metaphysical knowledge is not dogma to be blindly accepted, but experiential wisdom to be verified through practice. The journey ahead is structured around the fundamental laws that mystics and sages have identified as the deep operating system of reality. These are not religious doctrines requiring faith. They are observational principles, recognizable patterns in the way consciousness interacts with the field of potential that surrounds you. Whether you believe in them or not, they are already at work in your life, shaping your experiences according to your alignment or misalignment with their flow. As we move through each principle, pay attention not only to the intellectual understanding, but to the felt sense in your body, the intuitive recognition in your heart. This knowledge seeks to bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the part of you that remembers. For you have known these truths before, in other forms, in other times. What seems like learning is actually remembering. The goal of this exploration is not to make you more knowledgeable in the conventional sense. It is to make you more aware, more aligned, more capable of consciously creating the reality you desire rather than unconsciously perpetuating the reality you fear. When these principles become lived experience rather than theoretical concepts, your entire relationship with existence transforms. You are standing at a threshold. Behind you lies the comfortable certainty of the known world with all its limitations and familiar disappointments. Ahead lies a wider vista, a more expansive understanding of what is possible when you align with the fundamental laws of creation. The choice to step forward is always yours. No one can force awakening upon another. But if you feel the call, if something within you recognizes that there is more to reality than you have been taught, then this exploration is your invitation. The forbidden metaphysics we unveil today are forbidden only in the sense that they reveal your own power, your own creative authority, your own divine nature. And there have always been forces, both external and internal, that would prefer you remain ignorant of such truths. But the time for ignorance is passing. The age of awakening is here, and those who choose to see will find that reality itself conspires to support their vision. Chapter 1: The Principle of Mentalism. At the foundation of all metaphysical understanding rests a principle so simple in statement, yet so vast in implication, that grasping it fully requires a complete reorganization of how you perceive reality. This is the principle of mentalism, the first and most fundamental of the ancient Hermetic laws. It declares that all is mind, that the universe itself is mental in nature, and that what you perceive as solid, fixed, external reality is actually a mental construct, a thought form held in the infinite mind of the All. To the materialist, such a statement sounds like madness or mysticism disconnected from observable fact. Yet quantum physics has begun to crack open the door to this very understanding. The observer effect, wave function collapse, quantum entanglement all point toward a reality that is not independent of consciousness, but intimately responsive to it. Matter at the quantum level exists in superposition, in multiple potential states simultaneously, until consciousness observes it and causes it to assume definite form. But the principle of mentalism goes deeper than quantum mechanics. It suggests that consciousness is not a property that emerged from matter, but the ground from which matter itself emerges. In the beginning was not the atom, but the thought, not the particle, but the awareness that conceives of particles. The physical universe is the manifestation of mental patterns, frequency structures in consciousness that have densified into the forms you see, touch, and measure. Consider your dreams. In sleep, you experience entire worlds that seem real while you are in them. You encounter people, places, challenges, emotions, all generated entirely by your own mind. Upon waking, you recognize these as mental constructs, yet while dreaming, they had texture, dimension, consequence. The principle of mentalism suggests that waking reality operates on the same principle, simply at a more stable, shared frequency. You are dreaming still, but within a collective dream that follows certain rules, certain agreements about what is possible. This does not mean that physical reality is arbitrary or that you can simply wish away the laws of nature. The mental universe operates according to its own coherent principles, just as your nighttime dreams follow certain patterns even while breaking the rules of physics. The key insight is that these principles are mental, not material. They are patterns in consciousness, and consciousness that understands its own nature can work with these patterns rather than being unconsciously bound by them. When ancient teachers spoke of Maya, illusion, they were not saying that the world is fake or unimportant. They were pointing to the fact that what you perceive as solid, separate objects are actually energy patterns, frequency vibrations in a unified field of consciousness. The separation between you and the world, between subject and object, between mind and matter, these divisions are convenient fictions, useful for navigating daily life, but ultimately untrue at the deepest level. Your individual mind is not separate from the universal mind any more than a wave is separate from the ocean. You are a focal point of consciousness within the infinite consciousness that is the all. Your thoughts are not isolated events happening in the privacy of your skull. They are disturbances in the mental field, ripples that propagate outward, interacting with other thought patterns, crystallizing into circumstances and events. This is why your persistent thoughts tend to manifest as your lived experience. It is not magic in the supernatural sense. It is natural law operating at the mental level. What you focus upon, you energize. What you energize, you attract. What you attract, you experience. The mental patterns you hold most consistently become the template around which physical reality organizes itself in your personal sphere of experience. Understanding the principle of mentalism transforms your relationship with thought itself. Most people are completely unconscious of their mental activity, allowing thoughts to arise and pass without examination, without question. But if all is mind, then your thoughts are not passive observations of reality, but active participants in its creation. Every thought you think is a vote for the kind of world you will experience. This principle also explains the power of visualization, affirmation, and mental rehearsal. When you hold a clear mental image with emotional intensity and sustained focus, you are not pretending or fantasizing. You are working at the causal level of reality, shaping the mental patterns that will eventually precipitate into physical form. The physical manifestation is the effect. The mental pattern is the cause. Most people try to change effects without ever addressing causes, which is why their efforts produce such limited results. The implications of mentalism extend into every area of life. If consciousness is primary, then healing is possible through shifts in consciousness. If mind precedes matter, then limitations are not fixed, but flexible, responsive to changes in belief and understanding. If reality is mental, then you are not a victim of circumstances, but a creator of them, consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or by default. But recognizing the mental nature of reality also brings responsibility. You can no longer blame the world for what you experience. The world is reflecting your inner state back to you with perfect precision. This can be uncomfortable to accept, especially when facing difficult circumstances. Yet it is also profoundly empowering because it means that you are never truly helpless. Change your mind, change your mental patterns, and you change the reality you experience. The ancient Hermetic maxim states, "As above, so below, as within, so without." This is mentalism in poetic form. The outer world mirrors the inner world. The physical plane reflects the mental plane. What exists in your mind must eventually manifest in your experience, unless you change the thought pattern before it crystallizes. To live in alignment with the principle of mentalism requires vigilance over your inner world. It means becoming aware of the thoughts you habitually think, the beliefs you unconsciously hold, the mental narratives you tell yourself about who you are and what is possible. It means recognizing that your mind is not a passive receptor, but an active projector, constantly broadcasting signals that the universe interprets and reflects back. This principle also reveals why meditation and mindfulness practices have such transformative power. When you quiet the surface noise of random thought and access deeper levels of mind, you touch the creative source itself. In stillness, you can consciously plant new mental seeds, new patterns that will grow into new realities. You can dissolve old mental structures that no longer serve you and allow new ones to form. The principle of mentalism is not about denying physical reality or retreating into pure abstraction. It is about recognizing the true relationship between consciousness and matter, understanding that mind is the senior partner in this relationship. Matter is not the creator of mind. Mind is the creator of matter. And when you fully grasp this, you step into your role as a conscious creator, working with the mental laws that shape reality from within. Chapter 2. The Fabric of Correspondence. The second great principle of metaphysics reveals that the universe is not a random collection of disconnected phenomena, but a unified system of corresponding patterns that repeat across all levels of existence. This is the principle of correspondence encapsulated in the ancient saying, "As above, so below, as below, so above." What appears in one dimension of reality mirrors what appears in others. The patterns that govern galaxies also govern atoms. The laws that shape the cosmos also shape your individual life. To understand correspondence is to recognize that you live in a fractal universe where the same designs repeat at every scale. Look at a fern leaf, and you see the same pattern repeating in each smaller branch, each division reflecting the whole. Examine a river delta from above and notice how it mirrors the branching structure of trees, of lungs, of lightning, of neural networks. This is not coincidence. It is correspondence. The fundamental principle that connects all levels of existence through resonant patterns. The ancient teachers who formulated this principle understood that knowledge gained at one level of reality could be applied to others. If you want to understand the workings of the cosmos, study the workings of your own mind. If you want to comprehend the nature of the divine, examine the nature of your own consciousness. The macrocosm is reflected in the microcosm, and the microcosm contains the essential patterns of the macrocosm. This principle explains why astrology, when properly understood, carries genuine insight. The movements of celestial bodies correspond to patterns in human consciousness and earthly events. Not because planets cause events in some mechanical sense, but because the same underlying principles that organize planetary motion also organize psychological dynamics and social patterns. As above in the heavens, so below on earth. As in the movement of vast cosmic bodies, so in the movement of individual souls. Correspondence also illuminates the relationship between the spiritual and material planes. The physical world you experience is not separate from higher spiritual realities, but corresponding to them. What exists as pure potential in spiritual dimensions takes form as manifest reality in physical dimensions. What appears as light and energy on subtle planes appears as matter and force on dense planes. The difference is not in kind, but in frequency, in rate of vibration. Consider your body as a correspondence of your consciousness. Every organ, every system, every cell reflects some aspect of your mental and emotional state. Tension in your mind creates tension in your muscles. Emotional blockages manifest as physical restrictions. Psychological conflicts express themselves as physiological imbalances. The body is the physical correspondence of your inner world, making visible what would otherwise remain invisible. This is why all healing ultimately begins at mental and spiritual levels. You can treat physical symptoms endlessly, but if the corresponding mental pattern remains unchanged, the symptoms will return or manifest in different forms. True healing addresses the cause at the level of consciousness, allowing the physical correspondence to naturally return to balance. The principle of correspondence also reveals why symbolic and archetypal knowledge carries such power. Symbols are not arbitrary signs, but condensed representations of universal patterns that appear across all levels of reality. When you work with a symbol consciously, you are connecting with the corresponding pattern in the greater cosmos, aligning your individual frequency with that universal vibration. Sacred geometry demonstrates correspondence with particular clarity. The patterns found in the flower of life, the Sri Yantra, the Fibonacci spiral, these are not human inventions, but discoveries of the fundamental blueprints that consciousness uses to organize itself into form. The same proportions that govern the growth of nautilus shells govern the spiral arms of galaxies. The same ratios that appear in ancient temples appear in the structure of your DNA. Understanding correspondence transforms how you interpret your life experiences. When you face a challenge, you can ask what this situation corresponds to in your inner world. What belief, what fear, what unresolved pattern is this outer circumstance reflecting back to you? The external is always a mirror of the internal, showing you what needs attention, what needs healing, what needs to shift within your consciousness. This principle also explains the effectiveness of meditation on specific themes or qualities. When you meditate on peace, you are not creating peace out of nothing. You are aligning yourself with the universal pattern of peace that exists at higher levels of reality, allowing that pattern to establish its correspondence in your mind, emotions, and eventually your circumstances. What you tune into above manifests below. The correspondence between thought and reality is particularly important for manifestation. A thought is not just a fleeting mental event. It is a pattern at the mental level that seeks correspondence at the physical level. When you think consistently about something, you are creating a strong mental pattern that the universe must match with a corresponding physical pattern. This is why affirmations and visualization work when done with proper understanding and persistence. But correspondence also means that you cannot hold one pattern internally and expect a contradictory pattern externally. If your thoughts are constantly focused on lack, the correspondence will be experiences of scarcity. If your emotional state is dominated by fear, the correspondence will be circumstances that justify fear. The outer must match the inner. This is law, not preference. Ancient alchemists understood correspondence deeply. Their work of transforming base metals into gold was not merely about physical chemistry, but about the correspondence between spiritual transformation and material results. As the alchemist purified their own consciousness, raising it from base states to golden awareness, the corresponding transformation would occur in the physical substances they worked with. The great work was always internal first, external second. The planetary correspondences taught in Hermetic traditions connect celestial bodies with metals, days, colors, plants, and aspects of human psychology. These are not superstitious associations, but observed patterns of resonance. Mercury corresponds to quick, communicative energies, both in the metal and in the mind. Mars corresponds to assertive, combative qualities in both the planet's nature and human temperament. Each correspondence reveals a thread in the unified fabric of existence. To live in alignment with the principle of correspondence is to recognize that nothing in your life is isolated or random. Every event, every person, every challenge that appears corresponds to something within your own consciousness. You draw to yourself what matches your vibration, what resonates with your beliefs, what reflects your inner state. When you change within, the without must change to maintain correspondence. This principle offers profound hope because it means that transformation is always possible. You are not imprisoned by external circumstances. Those circumstances are corresponding to internal patterns, and internal patterns can be changed. As you shift your consciousness, raise your vibration, heal your wounds, and clarify your vision, the corresponding shifts in your external reality must follow. The universe has no choice but to maintain correspondence between all its levels. Chapter 3. The Law of Vibration. Beneath the apparent solidity of matter lies a reality of pure vibration. This is not poetic metaphor, but demonstrable fact. Everything you perceive as solid is actually energy in motion, particles and waves dancing at specific frequencies. The chair you sit on, the body you inhabit, the air you breathe, all of it is vibration, moving at different rates, creating the illusion of separateness and solidity through the limitations of sensory perception. The law of vibration states that nothing rests, nothing is truly still. Everything moves, everything vibrates, everything oscillates at its own specific frequency. The differences between various manifestations of energy and matter are simply differences in their rates of vibration. Change the vibration, and you change the form. This principle is the foundation of all transformation, all manifestation, all shifts in reality. Modern physics confirms what ancient metaphysicians always knew. Matter is not solid stuff, but concentrated energy. And energy is frequency, vibration. Einstein's famous equation, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, reveals that matter and energy are interchangeable, two expressions of the same underlying reality. What appears as matter is actually vibration slowed down, densified. What appears as pure energy is vibration at higher frequencies. But the law of vibration extends beyond the physical. Thoughts vibrate, emotions vibrate, consciousness itself is vibration. Your mental state has a frequency that can be measured in the electrical activity of your brain. Your emotional state creates biochemical vibrations throughout your body. Your spiritual awareness operates at frequencies beyond what current instruments can detect, but which sensitive individuals can perceive. This is why everything carries a feeling, a quality, an energetic signature. When you enter a room where an argument just occurred, you feel the heavy vibration even if no one tells you what happened. When you meet someone radiating joy, you feel uplifted by their high vibration. These are not imaginary impressions, but real interactions of vibrational fields. Understanding vibration explains the principle of resonance. When two frequencies are compatible, they strengthen each other. This is why certain music moves you deeply, while other sounds feel jarring. The music that resonates with your current vibration amplifies your state. This is why being around positive people lifts your mood, while negative people drain your energy. Vibrations interact, and like attracts like. The law of vibration is the mechanism behind the law of attraction. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you vibrate. If your dominant vibration is fear, you attract fearful circumstances. If your vibration is abundance, you attract abundant circumstances. The universe is not responding to your words or even your surface thoughts, but to the vibrational signal your entire being is broadcasting. This is why affirmations alone often fail. If you are affirming abundance while vibrating scarcity, the vibration wins every time. The universe responds to frequency, not to language. You must change your actual vibration, your felt sense, your embodied state, not just the words you repeat. True change happens when your vibrational frequency shifts at the core. Every emotion has its own vibrational frequency. Shame vibrates at the lowest, heaviest frequencies. Apathy, grief, and fear vibrate slightly higher, but still in dense ranges. Anger, though uncomfortable, actually vibrates higher than fear, which is why anger can feel empowering after periods of fear. Courage, love, joy, and peace vibrate at increasingly higher frequencies, with enlightenment at the highest measurable range. Your goal in conscious living is to consistently raise your vibration. This is not about denying difficult emotions when they arise, but about not making your home in low-frequency states. You feel what you feel, but you do not have to resonate there permanently. Through awareness, breath, movement, sound, and intention, you can shift your vibration deliberately. Sound is one of the most direct tools for altering vibration. Chanting, toning, singing, these practices have been used across cultures precisely because sound is vibration made audible. When you chant a mantra, you are not reciting meaningless syllables. You are creating a specific vibrational frequency that entrains your entire system to that pattern. The ancient syllable Om, for instance, is said to carry the vibrational signature of creation itself. Color is another expression of vibration, with each hue corresponding to a specific frequency of light. This is why color therapy and visualization with color can affect your state. Red vibrates at a lower, more stimulating frequency. Blue vibrates higher, with calming, expansive qualities. When you visualize yourself surrounded by a particular color, you are not engaging in fantasy but in vibrational alignment. The vibrational principle also explains why certain places feel sacred or powerful. Locations where prayer, meditation, and ceremony have been practiced for centuries accumulate those high vibrations. The space itself holds the frequency of countless elevated states, making it easier for anyone entering that space to access similar states. This is why people travel to temples, power spots, and sacred sites seeking transformation. Your environment constantly influences your vibration. The media you consume, the conversations you engage in, the cleanliness and order of your space, all of these carry vibration that affects your own frequency. If you want to raise your vibration, you must become conscious of what you are exposing yourself to and make choices that support higher frequencies. Gratitude is one of the most reliable tools for raising vibration. When you feel genuine gratitude, your entire system shifts into a higher frequency state. This is not because gratitude is morally good, but because it is vibrationally high. The universe responds to the vibration of gratitude by providing more experiences that match that frequency, creating a positive spiral. The law of vibration teaches that you are not a fixed being, but a flowing process, constantly oscillating, constantly changing frequency based on your focus, your choices, your environment. You have far more control over your vibration than you typically exercise. Through intention and practice, you can become like a master musician, able to shift into the frequency that serves your highest purpose in any moment. This principle also reveals why raising your vibration is not selfish but service. When you vibrate at higher frequencies, you lift the collective field. Your presence becomes a tuning fork that helps others access higher states. You do not need to preach or convince. Simply by maintaining your own high vibration, you contribute to the elevation of consciousness on the planet. The forbidden truth is that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a vibrational being creating your reality through the frequencies you emit. Master your vibration, and you master your manifestation. Everything is frequency, and frequency is everything. When you understand this deeply, you realize that transformation is always available. You need only shift your signal, and reality shifts to match. Chapter 4. The Dance of Polarity. Reality expresses itself through pairs of opposites, and this fundamental duality is not a flaw in creation, but its essential dynamic. This is the principle of polarity, which reveals that seemingly opposite things are actually two extremes of the same phenomenon. Hot and cold are both temperature, differing only in degree. Love and hate are both emotional intensities, opposite poles on the same spectrum. Light and dark are both conditions of illumination at different levels. Understanding polarity dissolves the rigid categories that trap most thinking. Good and bad, right and wrong, positive and negative, these are not absolute distinctions, but relative positions on continuums. What seems good in one context may be harmful in another. What appears negative from one perspective may be beneficial from another. The polarities are always in relation, never fixed. The ancients symbolized this principle in many ways. The yin-yang symbol of Taoism perfectly captures the truth that each pole contains the seed of its opposite, that light carries the potential for darkness, and darkness carries the potential for light. The poles dance together, each defining the other, each necessary for the other to exist. This principle explains why you cannot have peaks without valleys, joy without sorrow, gain without loss. The attempt to experience only one pole while eliminating the other is futile and exhausting. Life naturally oscillates between polarities, and trying to stop this oscillation is like trying to stop the ocean's tides. The wisdom lies not in resisting the swing, but in understanding it, even using it. Every challenge you face contains within it the seed of equivalent benefit. This is not optimistic platitude, but expression of polarity. The crisis that seems to destroy you also creates space for something new. The loss that breaks your heart also opens you to deeper love. The pole you are experiencing always contains access to its opposite, waiting for you to discover the hidden doorway. Polarity also explains the paradoxical nature of spiritual teaching. Teachers speak of effort and surrender, discipline and spontaneity, form and emptiness. These are not contradictions, but recognitions that truth contains both poles. The key is learning when to engage which pole, understanding that mastery involves moving fluidly between them rather than clinging to one side. In your emotional life, polarity means that you cannot selectively numb. If you close yourself to pain, you also close yourself to joy. If you refuse to feel anger, you also diminish your access to passion. The emotional spectrum is continuous, and attempting to cut off one end cuts you off from the full range of human experience. Wholeness requires embracing the entire spectrum. The principle of polarity offers a powerful tool for transformation called mental transmutation. Because poles are connected, you can move along the spectrum from one to the other. If you find yourself in a state of fear, you do not need to fight the fear. Instead, recognize that fear and courage occupy the same spectrum, and you can slide your consciousness from one pole toward the other. This is done not through denial, but through focus and will. You acknowledge the fear without being consumed by it, then deliberately direct your attention toward courage. You ask what courage feels like, looks like, sounds like. You recall moments when you were courageous. You breathe into the quality of courage until you feel the shift. This is not pretending, but genuine movement along the polarity spectrum. The same technique works with any polarity. Hatred can be transmuted toward love because they are opposite poles of the same emotional energy. Apathy can be transmuted toward enthusiasm because both are positions on the spectrum of engagement. Poverty consciousness can shift toward abundance consciousness because both are vibrational states on the wealth spectrum. Understanding polarity also helps you navigate the spiritual path with more wisdom. Many seekers struggle because they believe they should always feel peaceful, always be loving, always maintain high vibration. But this denies the natural rhythm of polarity. Even enlightened beings experience the full range of human emotion. The difference is that they do not identify with any pole as permanent or absolute. In relationships, polarity creates attraction. The masculine and feminine principles are not about biological gender, but about energetic poles. Masculine energy tends toward structure, direction, purpose. Feminine energy tends toward flow, receptivity, nurturing. Healthy relationships dance between these poles, with each partner expressing both energies at different times, creating dynamic balance rather than fixed roles. The polarity principle also illuminates the mystery of how suffering leads to wisdom. Suffering is one pole, and wisdom is its corresponding opposite on the spectrum of experience. The deeper you descend into the valley of suffering, the higher the potential peak of wisdom available to you. This is why spiritual traditions often speak of necessary trials. The descent makes possible the ascent, but polarity also warns against the trap of spiritual bypassing. Some seekers try to leap directly to the light pole while denying their shadows. This creates imbalance and eventually forces a correction. True integration requires acknowledging both poles, making friends with your darkness as well as your light, understanding that wholeness includes everything. The political and social world operates by polarity as well. Societies swing between conservative and progressive poles, neither sustainable as permanent state. The wisdom lies not in winning for one side, but in recognizing that health requires both poles, that conservation and innovation, tradition and change, order and freedom must dance together. Nature demonstrates polarity everywhere. Day becomes night, becomes day in endless cycle. Inhalation follows, exhalation follows inhalation. Growth seasons alternate with rest seasons. Birth leads to death, leads to rebirth. These are not problems to be solved, but rhythms to be honored, natural expressions of the polarity that allows change and therefore life itself. To live in alignment with the principle of polarity means accepting the rhythm of your own experience. You will have days of clarity and days of confusion, moments of connection and moments of isolation, periods of expansion and periods of contraction. This is not failure. This is the natural pulse of existence moving through you. The forbidden knowledge is that you can consciously work with polarity rather than being unconsciously tossed between poles. When you understand the spectrum, you can choose your position on it. When you accept both poles as necessary, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. And in that flow, you discover a third position, the center point, the witness, the consciousness that watches the dance of opposites without being trapped in either extreme. Chapter 5. The Rhythm of All Things. The universe moves in cycles, waves, pendulum swings, and spirals. Nothing remains static. Everything flows in rhythm from one pole toward another and back again. This is the principle of rhythm, closely related to polarity, but emphasizing the temporal dimension, the movement through time that characterizes all existence. Watch the ocean, and you see rhythm in every wave that rises and falls, in every tide that flows in and out. Observe the sky, and you witness rhythm in the progression of day into night, in the waxing and waning of the moon, in the wheel of seasons, turning without pause. Study your own body, and you find rhythm in every heartbeat, every breath, every cycle of hunger and satisfaction. Rhythm is the pulse of creation itself. It is how energy moves through form, how patterns perpetuate themselves, how the universe maintains its dynamic equilibrium. Without rhythm, there would be no movement, no change, no life. The rhythm is not chaos but cosmos, ordered patterns repeating with mathematical precision. Understanding rhythm transforms your relationship with time and change. Most people experience their lives as random ups and downs, never recognizing the patterns. But when you understand rhythm, you see that what seems random is actually cyclical. Your moods follow rhythms. Your energy levels follow rhythms. Your relationships, your finances, your creative output all flow in rhythmic patterns. Ancient wisdom keepers tracked these rhythms carefully. They understood that there are optimal times for planting and harvesting, for beginning projects and completing them, for taking action and for resting. The agricultural societies that survived and thrived were those that learned to work with natural rhythms rather than against them. Modern culture often ignores these rhythms, leading to exhaustion and imbalance. Your personal rhythms include cycles you are aware of, and many you are not. The circadian rhythm governing sleep and wakefulness is obvious once pointed out. Yet many people fight it, forcing their bodies to operate on schedules that violate natural timing. Women's menstrual cycles are profound rhythms connecting to lunar phases, yet these are often treated as inconveniences rather than honored as natural wisdom. There are larger rhythms as well, operating over months and years. The 7-year cycle is recognized in many traditions as a time of significant change and transformation. Every 7 years, your cells have almost entirely replaced themselves. Every 7 years, you are called to a new level of growth. Notice how major life shifts often cluster around these intervals. The principle of rhythm teaches that what goes up must come down, and what goes down will rise again. This is both warning and promise. When you are in a high phase, understand that a descent will eventually come, This is not pessimism, but realism, allowing you to enjoy the high without clinging to it, knowing that the rhythm will turn. Similarly, when you are in a low phase, you can endure with more grace, knowing the rhythm will carry you back up. Many spiritual seekers struggle because they believe awakening means transcending all rhythms existing in permanent elevated state. But this misunderstands the nature of embodied existence. As long as you have a body, you are subject to rhythms. Even enlightened beings experience cycles of energy and rest, expansion and integration, social engagement and solitude. The key is not to escape rhythm, but to master it. Mastery means recognizing which phase of the rhythm you are in and working with it rather than against it. When the rhythm is carrying you into an expansive phase, take action, start projects, engage with the world. When the rhythm is carrying you into a contractive phase, rest, reflect, integrate, prepare for the next expansion. This principle also explains why persistence in any endeavor requires understanding rhythms. No business grows in straight line upward. No creative project unfolds without periods of flow and periods of blockage. No relationship maintains constant intensity without oscillation between closeness and necessary distance. Those who succeed are those who continue through the entire rhythm cycle rather than quitting when the inevitable down phase arrives. Rhythm also governs larger historical and collective cycles. Civilizations rise and fall in rhythmic patterns. Technologies emerge, mature, and become obsolete in predictable cycles. Cultural values swing between poles across generations. Understanding these larger rhythms helps you contextualize the changes you witness, seeing them not as random chaos, but as natural movement. The astrological system, whatever you believe about its predictive capacity, is fundamentally a system for tracking rhythms. The movements of planets are rhythms, and the claim of astrology is that these celestial rhythms correspond to psychological and social rhythms on Earth. Whether causal or merely synchronistic, the correlation has been observed across cultures for millennia. Modern chronobiology is beginning to understand what ancient wisdom always knew, that your body's rhythms are entrained to cosmic rhythms. The cycles of light and dark, the gravitational pull of the moon affecting tidal movements in your body fluids, the solar cycles affecting your energy levels, these are not superstitions but measurable phenomena. To live in rhythm means developing sensitivity to your own patterns. Keep track of your energy levels, your moods, your productivity over time. You will begin to notice your personal rhythms emerging. Some people are naturally morning people, others night owls. Some work best in intense bursts, followed by rest. Others prefer steady, sustained effort. There is no universal right rhythm, only the rhythm that is natural for you. It also means honoring seasonal rhythms. Winter is not a time for the same activities as summer. Your body and psyche naturally want to slow down, go inward, rest during the dark months. Fighting this by maintaining summer levels of activity leads to depletion. Allowing yourself to move with the seasonal rhythm restores and renews. The rhythm principle teaches that timing is everything. The best idea launched at the wrong time fails. The mediocre idea launched when the rhythm is right succeeds. Ancient wisdom speaks of kairos, the right time, as opposed to chronos, clock time. There is a rhythm to opportunity, and learning to sense it is a crucial skill. Meditation and mindfulness practices help you attune to rhythm. In stillness, you can feel the subtle pulses and waves moving through your being. You can sense when energy is rising and when it is falling. This felt awareness allows you to move with the rhythm rather than being unconsciously pushed and pulled by it. The principle of rhythm ultimately teaches acceptance and flow. Resisting the natural rhythms of life is exhausting and futile. Accepting them, understanding them, even celebrating them brings you into harmony with the fundamental pulse of existence. You stop fighting the tide and learn to surf, riding the waves with skill and grace. Chapter 6: The Mystery of Cause and Effect. Every action produces a reaction. Every cause generates an effect. This principle seems simple on the surface, yet its implications penetrate to the deepest mysteries of existence. The law of cause and effect states that nothing happens by chance, that every event has a cause, and that the same cause under the same conditions will always produce the same effect. Science accepts this principle in the physical realm, where it forms the foundation of all experimentation and prediction. Chemistry, physics, biology all assume that natural law is consistent, that causes produce effects reliably. But metaphysics extends this principle beyond the material into the mental and spiritual dimensions, declaring that your thoughts are causes that produce effects in your experience. This is where most modern thinking stops short. The materialist worldview can accept that your actions produce results, but struggles to acknowledge that your inner states, your beliefs, your mental patterns also generate effects in the external world. Yet, this is precisely what the law of cause and effect at the metaphysical level reveals. Every thought you think is a cause set in motion. Every emotion you feel is a cause radiating outward. Every intention you form is a cause-seeking manifestation. These inner causes may not produce immediate visible effects, but they initiate causal chains that eventually culminate in experiences, circumstances, and events in your life. This is the principle often called karma, though karma is frequently misunderstood. Karma is not punishment dispensed by a cosmic judge. It is simply the law of cause and effect, operating with perfect precision. What you send out returns to you. The energy you release into the field must circle back. This is not morality, but mechanics, not divine judgment, but natural law. Understanding this principle destroys victimhood. If everything in your experience has a cause, and if you are constantly generating causes through your thoughts, emotions, and actions, then you are not at the mercy of random fate. You are the primary causal agent in your own life. This is simultaneously humbling and empowering. It is humbling because it means you cannot blame anyone else for what you experience. The circumstances you face are effects of causes you set in motion, if not in this moment, then in previous moments, if not consciously, then unconsciously. Taking full responsibility for your experience is difficult, but necessary for awakening. It is empowering because it means you can change your experience by changing the causes you generate. You are not trapped. You are not powerless. At any moment, you can begin generating new causes that will produce different effects. The past does not bind you except to the extent that you continue repeating the same causal patterns. The challenge is that effects often lag behind causes. You plant a seed today, but the plant does not appear until later. This time gap can make the causal relationship difficult to perceive. You may experience an effect and have no idea what caused it, because the cause was set in motion days, months, or even years ago. This is why becoming conscious of your habitual causes is so important. Your beliefs are particularly powerful causes. A belief is a thought you think repeatedly until it becomes an automatic pattern. These automatic patterns operate below conscious awareness. generating effects continuously without your conscious participation. If you hold a belief that you are unworthy, you will unconsciously generate behaviors and choices that produce experiences confirming that unworthiness. This is why affirmations and positive thinking alone often fail. You may consciously think positive thoughts while unconsciously holding negative beliefs. The unconscious beliefs are stronger causes because they operate constantly, while the conscious affirmations are sporadic. Real change requires bringing unconscious beliefs into consciousness and deliberately replacing them. The law of cause and effect also operates in relationships. What you give, you receive. If you offer judgment, you experience being judged. If you extend forgiveness, you receive forgiveness. If you love without condition, you are loved without condition. Every interaction is a cause you are setting in motion, and the effect must return to you in some form. This does not mean the effect returns from the same person. You may forgive someone who never forgives you in return, yet forgiveness you offered becomes a cause that manifests as someone else forgiving you for something else. The universe balances the books, but not always in the ways you expect or from the sources you anticipate. Understanding causation also reveals why gratitude is so transformative. When you feel grateful, you are acknowledging receipt of effects you desire. This acknowledgement itself becomes a cause that generates more effects worthy of gratitude. The grateful heart becomes a magnet for blessings because it is constantly generating grateful causes. Conversely, complaining generates causes that produce more to complain about. When you focus on what is wrong, when you rehearse grievances, when you speak words of lack and limitation, you are planting seeds that must grow into more experiences matching those frequencies. You cannot sow thistle seeds and harvest wheat. The principle also explains why visualization and mental rehearsal are effective. When you vividly imagine an outcome, you are generating causes at the mental level. These mental causes set in motion subtle effects that gradually build toward physical manifestation. The more detailed and emotionally charged your visualizations, the stronger the causal force you generate. But cause and effect also means you cannot skip steps. You cannot jump from poverty consciousness to wealth manifestation without passing through the intermediate causes and effects. Each effect becomes the cause of the next effect in a chain of causation. Growth is incremental, built cause by cause, effect by effect. There are also collective causes and effects. Societies generate causes through their collective beliefs, values, and actions. These collective causes produce collective effects: wars, peace, prosperity, poverty, cultural flowering, or cultural decay. You participate in collective causation simply by being part of the collective, which is why individual awakening serves the whole. The mystery deepens when you consider that you are not only generating causes, but also experiencing effects from causes set in motion long ago, perhaps in other lifetimes if you accept reincarnation, or certainly in earlier phases of this life. You are simultaneously sowing and reaping, cause and effect, actor and recipient. This creates the complexity of human experience. At any moment, you may be experiencing effects from old causes while generating new causes that will produce different effects. The key is to focus on the causes you are generating now, trusting that new causes will eventually produce new effects, gradually shifting the entire pattern of your experience. The law of cause and effect ultimately teaches that you are the author of your experience, not the victim, not the passive recipient, but the active creator. Every moment offers the opportunity to generate causes that align with your highest vision. And every cause you generate echoes into eternity, shaping not only your own destiny, but contributing to the unfolding of the cosmic story. Chapter 7. The Secret of Gender. In the depths of metaphysical reality operates a principle that has been deeply misunderstood, often confused with biological sex or social roles. This is the principle of gender, which states that everything contains both masculine and feminine qualities, that creation itself requires the union of these two principles, and that all generation, all manifestation, all creativity emerges from their dynamic interaction. Gender, in the metaphysical sense, is not about male and female bodies, but about complementary modes of consciousness and energy. The masculine principle is active, projective, focused, giving form and direction. The feminine principle is receptive, nurturing, intuitive, giving life and flow. Both are necessary. Both are present in every human being, regardless of biological sex. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this. The Chinese concepts of yang and yin, the Hindu principles of Shiva and Shakti, the alchemical union of sun and moon, all pointed toward this fundamental polarity that exists not as opposition, but as complementarity. The masculine and feminine principles seek union because only through their union does creation occur. In your own consciousness, the masculine principle is your logical mind, your will, your ability to focus and direct. The feminine principle is your intuition, your emotions, your ability to receive and allow. Most people are imbalanced, overdeveloped in one principle and underdeveloped in the other. Wholeness requires cultivating both, allowing them to work together in dynamic partnership. Western culture has historically overvalued masculine qualities while devaluing feminine ones. Logic over intuition, action over receptivity, analysis over synthesis, competition over cooperation. This imbalance has created immense suffering, both individually and collectively. The current cultural moment is witnessing a correction as feminine qualities are reclaimed and revalued. But the correction must not become overcorrection, rejecting masculine qualities in favor of feminine ones. Balance is not about choosing one over the other, but integrating both. A healthy psyche contains a strong, directed masculine principle in sacred marriage with a deep, intuitive feminine principle. When these two work together, you become capable of powerful, aligned creation. In manifestation, the masculine principle is your clear intention, your focused will, your decisive action. The feminine principle is your receptivity to guidance, your trust in timing, your ability to surrender control and allow. Most manifestation failures come from being too much in one principle. All force and no flow, or all flow and no force. Consider the creative process. The masculine principle sets the goal, outlines the structure, commits to the discipline of showing up. The feminine principle allows inspiration to flow, remains open to unexpected directions, nurtures the work with patience. The masterpiece emerges from their union, not from either principle alone. In relationships, understanding gender principles dissolves much confusion. Attraction often arises from complementary expressions of masculine and feminine, regardless of biological sex. Someone leading primarily with masculine energy often attracts someone leading primarily with feminine energy. The polarity creates magnetic pull, but healthy relationships require both partners to contain and express both principles. Rigid gender roles, where one partner must always be masculine and the other always feminine, create stagnation. Dynamic relationships allow fluidity, with partners dancing between principles depending on the situation, supporting each other's wholeness. The principle also explains cycles in your life. There are times for masculine action, pushing forward, making things happen. And there are times for feminine receptivity, pulling back, allowing things to unfold. Many people burn out because they remain stuck in masculine doing, never allowing the feminine being. Others remain stuck in feminine waiting, never engaging the masculine action. In spiritual development, the masculine path emphasizes discipline, practice, will, effort. The feminine path emphasizes surrender, devotion, love, grace. Both lead to awakening. Some traditions are predominantly masculine in approach, others predominantly feminine. The wisest integrate both, understanding that will and grace, effort and surrender must dance together. The chakra system in yogic tradition maps gender principles onto the body's energy centers. The lower chakras carry more masculine, earthly, active energies. The upper chakras carry more feminine, ethereal, receptive energies. The heart chakra in the center is the meeting point, the sacred marriage chamber where masculine and feminine unite. Kundalini awakening is described as the feminine Shakti energy at the base of the spine, rising to unite with the masculine Shiva consciousness at the crown. This union creates enlightenment, the integration of all polarities into wholeness. The metaphor speaks to the necessity of internal gender balance for awakening. Creativity of any kind requires gender balance. Whether you are creating art, building a business, raising children, or manifesting a vision, you need both principles. The masculine provides structure, direction, boundaries. The feminine provides inspiration, nurturing, flow. Together they birth form from the formless. In meditation, there is masculine meditation that uses concentration, focusing the mind like a laser on a single point. And there is feminine meditation that uses awareness, opening the mind like space to receive whatever arises. Both develop consciousness. Both are necessary for complete practice. The principle of gender also reveals why forcing never works. Force is excessive masculine, will divorced from wisdom. When you try to force outcomes through sheer will without allowing the feminine principle of receptivity and timing, you create resistance. True power combines force with flow, will with wisdom, action with patience. Similarly, passive waiting without action is excessive feminine flow divorced from structure. When you simply wait for things to happen without engaging the masculine principle of directed will, you drift without progress. Power requires both poles engaged. Your inner masculine and feminine may need healing. If you experienced a harsh father, your internal masculine may be wounded, expressing as either excessive harshness toward yourself or inability to provide structure and direction. If you experienced an absent mother, your internal feminine may be wounded, expressing as either neediness or inability to nurture yourself. Healing these internal gender principles often involves working with archetypal images. Visualizing the divine masculine, strong but tender, protective but not controlling. Visualizing the divine feminine, nurturing but not smothering, flowing but not chaotic. As these archetypal energies become established in your psyche, your external life naturally balances. The secret of gender ultimately points toward the mystical union, the sacred marriage within, where all polarities dissolve into unified consciousness. You are neither masculine nor feminine. but the awareness that contains and transcends both. Yet to reach that transcendence, you must first integrate the polarities, honoring both, developing both, allowing them to consummate their eternal dance within your being. Chapter 8. The Akashic Records. Beyond the physical realm exists a level of reality where all information is stored, where every thought, every word ever spoken, every event ever experienced leaves its imprint. This is what metaphysical traditions call the Akashic Records, the cosmic library, the mind of the universe itself, holding the complete history of all souls and all creation. The concept appears across cultures under different names. Hindus speak of the Akasha, the primordial substance from which all things emerge. Carl Jung described the collective unconscious, a shared repository of human experience and archetypal knowledge. Modern physics hints at something similar in theories of the zero-point field or quantum information that never disappears. The Akashic Records are not a physical place, but a frequency, a level of consciousness that can be accessed through expanded awareness. Mystics, seers, and psychics throughout history have claimed to access these records, retrieving information about past events, understanding present situations, even glimpsing probable futures based on current trajectories. You access the Akashic Records in small ways all the time without recognizing it. When you have a sudden insight about someone, when you know something you have no logical way of knowing, when you experience vivid dreams that reveal hidden truths, you are touching the edge of the Akashic field. Intuition itself is often access to this greater information field. The records contain not only historical information but understanding. They hold the why behind events, the meanings, the purposes, the soul lessons embedded in experiences. When you access the Akashic Records about your own life, you do not merely remember what happened. You understand why it happened, how it served your evolution, what you were learning. Many spiritual traditions teach methods for deliberately accessing the Akashic Records. Deep meditation can open the doorway. Shamanic journeying travels to this realm. Certain prayers or invocations are said to grant permission for access. The key is always raising your consciousness to a frequency where the records become perceivable. But there is also a protective mechanism. The Akashic Records do not open to casual curiosity or ego-driven seeking. You access what you are ready to understand, what serves your growth. Some information remains veiled until you reach the level of consciousness capable of integrating it without harm. The records protect themselves, revealing truth only to those prepared to handle it responsibly. Understanding that all experience is recorded has profound implications. Nothing is ever lost. The loved one who died continues to exist as a complete record of their life, accessible through this field. The ancient civilizations that vanished left their imprint in the Akasha. Even your own past lives, if you accept that framework, exist as accessible records waiting for your consciousness to retrieve them. This principle also means that all your thoughts and actions are recorded. Nothing happens in secret. The universe sees and remembers everything. This is not about judgment or guilt, but about understanding that you are constantly contributing to the collective record of human experience. What you think, feel, and do becomes part of the eternal library. The Akashic Records explain phenomena like past life memories, especially in children who remember details they could not possibly know. They explain how psychics can sometimes access accurate information about people they have never met. They explain the experience of visiting a place for the first time, yet feeling you have been there before, recognizing it from the records. Some researchers suggest that accessing the Akashic records is how genuine innovation occurs. The inventor, the artist, the scientist tuning into this field of infinite information and retrieving the solution, the vision, the discovery. What seems like individual genius may be the ability to access collective knowledge stored in the cosmic database. Prayer and intention can program the Akashic records with new possibilities. When you clearly envision a desired future and impress it upon the field with emotional intensity, you create a record of that future in potential form. The universe then works to manifest the physical correspondence to that recorded potential. This is different from creating something from nothing. You are creating a pattern in the Akashic field that reality then seeks to match. The clearer and stronger your imprint in the records, the more powerfully reality moves to manifest it. This is why visualization and affirmation work. They are literally writing new records in the book of possibility. The Akashic records also contain what could be called future records, probable timelines based on current trajectories. These are not fixed predictions but potentials. Psychics accessing these records may see likely futures, but those futures can change if the causes generating them change. The records show where the current path leads, not where you must inevitably go. This understanding empowers you. If you access guidance about a probable future you do not like, you can change it by changing your thoughts, beliefs, and actions now. The future records are fluid, responsive to changes in the present causal patterns. You are not trapped by fate, but always free to write new potential into the records. Some traditions teach that before incarnating, souls review the Akashic records to plan their upcoming life. They choose the lessons they wish to learn, the experiences they need for growth, the people they will encounter. This pre-birth planning creates a soul contract recorded in the Akasha, a template the life will follow, though always with free will to diverge from the plan. Whether or not you accept these specific beliefs, the principle remains valuable. There exists a level of reality where information persists, where knowledge is available, where the story of existence is continuously written. Developing the capacity to access this level expands your consciousness beyond the limitations of individual memory and sensory perception. Meditation on the Akashic records often involves visualizing a library, a hall of records, or a book with your name on it. These images are symbolic, giving your conscious mind a framework for accessing the information. The records themselves are not literally books, but patterns of information in the unified field. The symbols help your mind bridge between ordinary consciousness and Akashic awareness. The principle teaches that truth is accessible. You do not need external authorities to tell you what is real or true. You can access the records directly, verifying information for yourself, retrieving the knowledge you need for your journey. This is radical empowerment, shifting authority from external sources to your own expanded consciousness. Chapter 9. The Power of the Present Moment. All power exists in the present moment. The past is gone, unchangeable except in its interpretation. The future has not yet arrived, existing only as potential. The only point where you have creative authority, where you can act, where transformation happens, is now. This truth, though simple, is one of the most difficult for human beings to embody. Your mind spends most of its time outside the present. It revisits the past, analyzing, regretting, or glorifying what happened. It projects into the future, planning, worrying, or fantasizing about what might happen. These mental journeys through time are not inherently wrong, but they become problematic when they consume your attention so completely that you lose contact with the only moment that actually exists. The past is a memory. The future is imagination. Only the present is real. Yet you treat the present as a brief way station between past and future, barely noticing it before moving on to the next mental time travel. In doing so, you miss your life, which unfolds only and always in the now. Ancient wisdom traditions emphasized presence as the foundation of spiritual practice. Buddha taught mindfulness, bringing full attention to each moment. Eckhart Tolle has reintroduced this teaching to modern audiences, pointing to the present moment as the doorway to enlightenment. All meditation practices are fundamentally training in being present. When you are fully present, suffering diminishes dramatically. Notice that your suffering is almost always about something that happened in the past or might happen in the future. In this actual moment right now, unless you are in immediate physical danger, you are probably fine. The present moment, when met directly, is usually manageable, even pleasant. The mind resists presence, because presence means feeling whatever is here now without escape. If uncomfortable emotions arise, presence requires experiencing them rather than distracting yourself. If boredom appears, presence asks you to be with it rather than reaching for stimulation. The mind has become addicted to constant movement, constant doing, constant thinking, and presence threatens that addiction. Yet in presence, you discover your true power. When you bring your full attention to what is right in front of you, you act with maximum effectiveness. Athletes call this being in the zone. Artists call it flow. It is the state where thought ceases and you become pure action, pure response, pure being. And in this state, you are capable of far more than when scattered across time. The present moment is also the only point of access to the quantum field of infinite possibility. When you are stuck in past regrets or future worries, you are vibrating at those frequencies, attracting more of the same. When you are fully present, you open to new possibilities that exist only in the now. Presence is the reset button that allows reality to reorganize around new patterns. Manifestation requires presence. You cannot create from the past, which is already determined, or from the future, which does not yet exist. You create from now, by choosing now what you think, what you feel, what you believe, what you do. Each present moment is a choice point where you set causes in motion, miss the present moment, and you miss your creative power. This is why gratitude is so effective. Gratitude brings you into the present moment, noticing what is here now that deserves appreciation. In that state of present appreciation, you shift your vibration and open to more experiences worthy of appreciation. Gratitude is a practice of presence that generates positive causation. Many people fear the present moment because it contains their pain. If you are carrying unresolved trauma, grief, or fear, being present means feeling those things. So you avoid presence, staying busy, staying distracted, anything to avoid what is here now. But avoidance only prolongs suffering. The way out is through, and through requires presence. When you finally turn toward your pain with presence, something surprising happens. The pain itself begins to dissolve. It was not the original event, but the resistance to feeling it that kept it alive. Presence with compassion allows trapped emotions to release, old wounds to heal. This is why mindfulness-based therapies are so effective. They teach presence as the healing medicine. Presence also connects you with your intuition. Your intuitive guidance speaks in the present moment through subtle feelings, quiet knowings, gentle nudges, but if you are lost in thought, in past or future, you cannot hear these whispers. Presence creates the inner quiet necessary to receive guidance. The spiritual path is often portrayed as a long journey toward a distant goal. But the truth is that enlightenment is always available right now. It is not a future attainment, but a present recognition. The awakened state is not somewhere else. It is here, in this moment, when you fully arrive and stop seeking anything other than what is. This teaching can be misunderstood as passive acceptance of everything as it is, but presence does not mean resignation. It means dealing with what is actually here rather than fighting with thoughts about what should be here. From presence, you can take clear action to change what needs changing, but that action is far more effective than action driven by resistance to the present. Children naturally live in the present. Watch a child completely absorbed in play and you see presence. No thought of past, no worry about future, just total engagement with now. As adults, you lose this capacity under the weight of responsibilities and conditioning. But you can reclaim it through practice. Through repeatedly bringing your attention back to this moment, breath is the bridge to presence. Your breath is always happening now. You cannot breathe in the past or future. So when your mind wanders through time, return attention to breath. Feel the air entering, feel it leaving. In a few conscious breaths, you are back in the present moment, back in your power. The present moment is not a philosophical concept, but a living reality to be experienced. You cannot think your way into presence. You must drop into felt experience, into sensation, into the alive awareness of what is here right now. This is why all spiritual practice is experiential rather than intellectual. The power of the present moment is that it contains eternity. When you are truly present, time disappears. You touch the timeless awareness that is your true nature. In that timelessness, past and future are seen as mental constructs, and you recognize yourself as the consciousness that observes all time without being bound by it. Chapter 10. The Illusion of Separation. The most fundamental illusion that traps human consciousness is the belief in separation. You experience yourself as a separate self, isolated in a body, looking out at a world of separate objects and separate others. This experience is so convincing, so apparently obvious, that questioning it seems absurd. Yet every mystical tradition declares that separation is illusion and unity is truth. At the quantum level, physics has discovered that everything is connected. Particles that once interacted remain mysteriously entangled across any distance, suggesting that separation in space does not mean separation in reality. The observer and the observed are not truly separate, but participants in a unified process of manifestation. Subject and object arise together, interdependently. Your body appears separate from the environment, yet you cannot draw a clear boundary. Where does your body end and the air begin? The oxygen you breathe becomes your blood cells. The food you eat becomes your tissues. The boundary is permeable, constantly exchanging, never truly separate. You are a process of relationship, not an isolated thing. Your mind seems private, contained within your skull. Yet you absorb ideas, emotions, and patterns from the collective field constantly. You think thoughts that millions of others are thinking. You feel emotions triggered by experiences you share with countless people. Your consciousness is individual in expression, but collective in substance. The illusion of separation creates most human suffering. When you believe you are separate, you feel alone, unconnected, unsupported. You experience lack because you perceive yourself as incomplete, cut off from the whole. You fear death because you imagine your separate self disappearing into nothingness. All of this arises from the fundamental misperception of separation. Competition, conflict, exploitation, these all require belief in separation. If you truly understood that harming another is harming yourself, that their pain is your pain, that we are all waves in the same ocean, you could not act with cruelty. The illusion of separation makes selfish action seem rational, even necessary for survival. But awakening dissolves this illusion. When consciousness expands beyond the boundaries of the separate self, you experience unity directly. Mystics describe this as cosmic consciousness, enlightenment, union with God. The words vary, but the experience is consistent. The boundaries dissolve, and you recognize yourself as the whole appearing as a part. This is not losing yourself or becoming nothing. It is discovering your true nature as infinite awareness, temporarily focused through the lens of an individual personality. Your unique perspective remains, but you no longer mistake it for your entire identity. You are both the wave and the ocean, the part and the whole simultaneously. The teaching of unity is not about denying differences or pretending everyone is the same. Forms are diverse, expressions are unique. The ocean contains countless waves, each with its own shape and motion. But all waves are ocean. Unity includes diversity within it. The one contains the many. Understanding unity transforms how you relate to others. When you recognize that the consciousness looking through their eyes is the same consciousness looking through yours, compassion arises naturally. Their joy is your joy. Their suffering is your suffering. Not as empathy from a separate self, but as direct recognition of shared being. This principle also explains the power of collective consciousness. When groups of people align their intention and attention toward a common purpose, they tap into unified field dynamics. The combined consciousness is more than the sum of individuals. It is a collective force capable of shifting reality in ways no individual could achieve. Prayer circles, group meditation, mass movements all demonstrate this principle. When many focus together on healing, on peace, on transformation, they create a powerful wave in the collective field. This is not supernatural, but natural consequence of unity. Separated individuals combining into unified force. The illusion of separation also keeps you from accessing the infinite resources of the universe. When you believe you are alone, you think you must rely only on your limited personal resources. But when you recognize your unity with all that is, you understand that the infinite creativity, intelligence, and power of the cosmos flows through you. You are not separate from the source. You are the source localized. Manifestation becomes easier when you understand unity. You are not trying to attract something from outside yourself to your separate self. You are allowing the unified field to organize itself in ways that express what you desire. Separation makes manifestation seem difficult, a struggle to pull things toward you. Unity reveals manifestation as natural flow, the field expressing through you. The practice of unity begins with dissolving internal separation. Most people are fragmented, with different parts of themselves at war. The part that wants to change battles, the part that resists change. The conscious mind contradicts the unconscious. Healing requires integrating these parts, recognizing that they are all expressions of your one consciousness. As you heal internal separation, external separation begins to dissolve. You stop seeing yourself as fundamentally different from others. You recognize the same fears, desires, struggles in everyone. The sense of alienation that plagues modern life begins to ease as you remember your connection to the whole. Nature helps restore the experience of unity. When you sit beneath trees, walk by oceans, watch stars, you feel your connection to something larger. The modern world, with its concrete boxes and artificial divisions, reinforces separation. The natural world reveals unity, showing you that you are part of the living web of existence. The ultimate truth is simple. There is only one consciousness, appearing as many forms. You are that one consciousness, temporarily experiencing itself through the filter of your particular body and mind. But you were never truly separate. You cannot be separate from what you are. The ocean cannot be separate from itself, no matter how many waves it forms. Chapter 11. The Alchemy of Consciousness. Alchemy, in its exoteric form, was the medieval quest to transform base metals into gold. But the true alchemists understood that physical transformation was only a symbol for the real work, the transformation of base consciousness into golden awareness, the transmutation of the leaden self into the golden self. This is the alchemy of consciousness, the sacred art of inner transformation. The alchemical journey follows stages carefully mapped by those who walked the path before. The first stage is called nigredo, the blackening, the descent into shadow. This is where you confront everything you have denied, repressed, hidden. It is the dark night of the soul where the false self begins to decompose, revealing the raw material of your true nature. Most people avoid this stage, which is why they never transform. They cling to comfortable illusions about themselves rather than descending into the uncomfortable truth. But there is no way to the gold except through the shadow. The parts of yourself you have rejected must be acknowledged, accepted, integrated. This is not pleasant work, but it is necessary work. The second stage is albedo, the whitening, the purification. Having faced the shadow, you begin to cleanse the psyche of old patterns, beliefs, and conditioning. This is where spiritual practice intensifies. Meditation, prayer, reflection, ethical refinement. You are washing away the accumulated grime of unconscious living, clearing the space for something new to emerge. Purification is not about becoming perfect according to external standards. It is about becoming authentic, aligned with your true nature. You let go of masks, pretenses, ways of being that serve to protect the ego but imprison the soul. This shedding can feel like death because, in a sense, it is. The false self dies so the true self can live. The third stage is citrinitas, the yellowing, the emergence of the solar consciousness. Here you begin to glimpse your true nature as light, as awareness, as pure consciousness. The identification with body and personality loosens. You recognize yourself as the witness, the space in which all experience arises. This is the dawning of enlightenment, the sunrise of awakened awareness. Finally comes rubedo, the reddening, the completion of the great work. This is the full embodiment of transformed consciousness. You have not transcended the world, but transfigured it. Matter and spirit are no longer separate. The physical and spiritual are recognized as one continuum. You walk in the world as spirit incarnate, the gold that was always hidden in the lead of ordinary experience. This alchemical journey is not linear. You do not complete one stage and leave it behind. You spiral through these stages repeatedly at deeper levels. Each turn of the spiral brings you closer to the center, to the philosopher's stone, the unified consciousness that transforms everything it touches. The alchemists worked with symbols, strange drawings of dragons and eagles, suns and moons, kings and queens. These were not literal instructions for chemical processes, but maps of consciousness transformation. The dragon represented raw instinct and shadow. The eagle represented ascending spirit. Their union was the goal, bringing together earth and sky, darkness and light, unconscious and conscious. Modern psychology has rediscovered these truths. Jung's work on individuation follows the alchemical pattern, confronting the shadow, integrating the anima or animus, transcending the ego to discover the self. He recognized that ancient alchemists were describing psychological processes using the language of metallurgy. The practice of consciousness alchemy requires intentional inner work. You cannot transform accidentally. You must enter the laboratory of your own mind with commitment to the process. Meditation is the alchemist's fire, the heat that dissolves old structures and reforms them into something higher. Suffering often catalyzes alchemical transformation. When life breaks you open, when circumstances force you to face what you have avoided, you are in the alchemical crucible whether you chose it or not. This is why the dark night of the soul, though agonizing, can be the beginning of profound transformation. The breaking down is necessary for the building up. But suffering alone does not guarantee transformation. Many people suffer without transforming, simply becoming bitter or broken. The difference is consciousness. When you bring awareness to suffering, when you work with it rather than merely enduring it, suffering becomes an alchemical agent. Pain transmutes into wisdom, loss into liberation, death into rebirth. The alchemist spoke of solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate, break down and rebuild. This is the rhythm of transformation. First, old structures must be dissolved. Beliefs that no longer serve, identities that have become prisons, patterns that keep you stuck, all must be broken down into their essential elements. Only then can they be recombined into new, higher forms. This process happens at all levels. In your body, cells are constantly dying and being reborn. In your mind, neural patterns dissolve and reform based on your focus and practice. In your spirit, identifications and attachments dissolve as you awaken to your true nature. Transformation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of dissolution and recrystallization. The goal of alchemy is the creation of the immortal body, not in the literal sense of physical immortality, but in the recognition of your eternal nature. You are not the body that lives and dies. You are the consciousness that observes countless bodies, forms, and experiences without ever being touched by them. This is the gold that cannot be destroyed, the philosopher's stone that transmutes everything it contacts. When you understand consciousness, alchemy, you see your life as the laboratory where transformation happens. Every challenge is raw material. Every relationship is a mirror showing you what needs to transform. Every emotion is energy that can be transmuted from base to noble expression. Nothing is wasted. Everything serves the great work. The alchemical marriage is the ultimate goal, the union of all opposites within yourself. Masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, spirit and matter, all merged into unified wholeness. This is not a mental concept but a lived reality, a felt sense of completion that comes when all internal warfare ceases and you rest in the peace of your own being. Chapter 12. The Quantum Field of Possibility. Quantum physics has revealed a reality stranger than any mystical teaching, yet remarkably aligned with ancient metaphysical wisdom. At the quantum level, particles exist in superposition, occupying all possible states simultaneously until observation collapses the wave function into a single actuality. This discovery has profound implications for understanding consciousness and manifestation. The quantum field is the realm of pure potential, the ocean of possibility from which all manifest reality emerges. It contains all possible configurations of energy and matter, all possible outcomes, all possible realities. What determines which possibility becomes actual? Consciousness. The act of observation, of focused awareness, selects from infinite possibilities and crystallizes one into experienced reality. This is not mysticism. This is established physics, though scientists debate its interpretation. The double-slit experiment demonstrates that particles behave differently when observed than when unobserved, suggesting that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining physical reality. The observer is not separate from the observed, but intimately involved in its manifestation. If reality emerges from a field of infinite possibility through the focusing of consciousness, then you are not a victim of fixed reality, but a participant in its continuous creation. Every moment, the quantum field presents infinite possibilities. Your consciousness, through its focus, beliefs, and expectations, selects which possibility manifests as your experience. This explains why belief is so powerful. Your beliefs are not merely ideas you hold, they are filters through which you perceive reality, and in perceiving, you select from the quantum field what matches your beliefs. If you believe the world is dangerous, you select and experience the dangerous possibilities. If you believe abundance is natural, you select and experience abundant possibilities. The quantum field does not have opinions about which possibilities are good or bad. It simply responds to the frequency of consciousness observing it. What you focus on, with emotion and repetition, becomes more probable, eventually becoming actual. This is not magic, but quantum mechanics applied to the manifestation process. Uncertainty is built into the quantum realm. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle states that you cannot simultaneously know both the position and momentum of a particle with complete precision. The act of measuring one disturbs the other. Applied to life, this means that reality is fundamentally indeterminate, always fluid, always responsive to consciousness, never completely fixed. This uncertainty is freedom. If reality were completely determined, you would be powerless to change it. But reality is probabilistic, not deterministic. The future exists as a field of probabilities, and your consciousness tips the scales toward certain outcomes. Every choice you make, every thought you think, shifts the probability distribution of what you will experience. The concept of quantum entanglement reveals that particles once connected remain mysteriously linked regardless of distance. Changing one instantly affects the other, faster than light could travel between them. This suggests that separation is illusory even at the physical level. Everything remains connected through the quantum field, the unified matrix from which all particles arise. Your consciousness is entangled with everything you have ever interacted with, everyone you have ever met, every place you have ever been. Through the quantum field, you remain connected to all of it. This explains phenomena like telepathy, remote viewing, and distant healing. The connections are real, operating through quantum entanglement, not through physical signals. The zero-point field is the quantum vacuum, supposedly empty space, yet seething with energy and virtual particles constantly appearing and disappearing. This field contains infinite energy potential. Every cubic centimeter of empty space contains more energy than all the matter in the visible universe. This is the sea of energy from which everything emerges and to which everything returns. When mystics speak of the void, the emptiness that contains all things, they are describing something remarkably similar to the quantum vacuum. It is not nothing but the pregnant fullness of infinite potential. To access this field consciously is to tap into unlimited creative power, the source from which all manifestation flows. Meditation practices that emphasize emptying the mind, letting go of thoughts, releasing attachments, these are methods for accessing the quantum field of pure potential. When your mind is full of thoughts and beliefs, you are locked into specific probabilities. When your mind becomes empty, spacious, you open to the infinite possibilities, allowing new patterns to emerge. The act of intention collapses probability waves. When you set a clear intention, you are selecting from infinite possibilities and increasing the probability of specific outcomes. The more clearly you define your intention, the more powerfully you focus consciousness, the more effectively you collapse the quantum wave function in favor of your desired reality. But intention must be accompanied by allowing. If you hold an intention while simultaneously doubting it, you are collapsing waves in contradictory directions, creating interference patterns that prevent manifestation. This is why clearing limiting beliefs is so important. They are constantly collapsing probability waves toward outcomes you do not consciously want. The quantum field also explains synchronicity. When you align with a specific frequency of consciousness, when you become coherent in your intention and belief, you attract matching probabilities from the field. Events, people, and circumstances that resonate with your frequency become more probable, appearing as meaningful coincidences. Some interpret quantum mechanics to suggest multiple realities existing in parallel, a multiverse where every possibility is actual in some universe. Whether or not this is literally true, it serves as a useful model. Every choice you make selects which universe you experience. Your consciousness is the navigator choosing which reality stream to follow. This empowers you to understand that other realities are always available. You are not stuck in one fixed reality. At any moment, you can shift your consciousness, change your beliefs, adjust your focus, and begin experiencing a different probability stream. The past does not determine the future except to the extent that you continue selecting the same patterns from the quantum field. The quantum field of possibility is always present, always available, always responsive. It is the canvas on which you paint your reality, the clay from which you sculpt your experience, the infinite potential awaiting the form-giving power of your consciousness. To understand this is to recognize yourself as creator, working with the most fundamental level of reality to manifest the life you are here to live. Chapter 13. The Sacred Geometry of Existence. Hidden within nature, within your body, within the structure of space itself, are geometric patterns that repeat at every scale. These are not arbitrary shapes but fundamental blueprints that consciousness uses to organize itself into form. This is sacred geometry, the mathematical language through which the invisible becomes visible, the formless takes form. The flower of life, found carved in ancient temples across the world, contains within its pattern the seeds of all other geometric forms. From this single pattern emerge the Platonic solids, the geometric basis of the elements. The cube represents earth, the octahedron air, the tetrahedron fire, the icosahedron water, the dodecahedron ether. These 5 shapes are the only perfectly regular three-dimensional forms, and they appear throughout nature. The golden ratio, phi, approximately 1.618, appears everywhere in nature and aesthetics. The spiral of a nautilus shell follows this ratio. The arrangement of seeds in a sunflower follows it. The proportions of your body approximate it. The ancient Greeks used it to design temples. Renaissance artists used it to compose masterpieces. This is not coincidence, but the universe's preferred proportion, the most harmonious relationship between parts. The Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the 2 preceding ones, generates spirals that appear in galaxies, hurricanes, pine cones, and DNA. This sequence approaches the golden ratio as it extends. It is the mathematical signature of organic growth, the pattern by which consciousness unfolds in time and space. The vesica piscis, formed by 2 intersecting circles, creates the shape of the human eye, the vulva, the fish, the portal. It represents the intersection of worlds, the birth canal through which spirit enters matter. Nearly every spiritual tradition uses this shape symbolically because it embodies the fundamental mystery of creation emerging from the union of 2. Metatron's cube contains all 5 Platonic solids within its structure. It is said to represent the geometric matrix from which physical reality is projected. To meditate on this pattern is to align your consciousness with the fundamental organizing principle of the cosmos, the grid of creation itself. The torus, a donut-shaped form, is the most fundamental geometric pattern in nature. Your energy field is toroidal. Earth's magnetic field is toroidal. Galaxies, atoms, apples, all follow this form. Energy flows in from one pole, circulates around the outside, flows out the other pole, and cycles back. This is the geometry of sustainable flow, of energy circulation, of life itself. Sacred geometry reveals that beauty is not subjective but mathematical. When you perceive something as beautiful, you are recognizing geometric harmony, proportions that resonate with the same patterns encoded in your being. Your body is sacred geometry. Your cells, your organs, your skeletal structure all follow these precise mathematical relationships. Architecture becomes sacred when it employs these proportions consciously. The great cathedrals, temples, and pyramids of ancient civilizations were not built merely for function, but as embodiments of sacred geometric principles. These structures were designed to resonate with human consciousness, to elevate awareness, to create spaces where the divine could more easily touch the human. Sound and geometry are intimately connected. Cymatics, the study of visible sound, reveals that different frequencies create different geometric patterns in matter. When sand on a metal plate is vibrated at specific frequencies, it organizes itself into precise geometric shapes. Each frequency has its corresponding geometry. Your voice, your thoughts, your emotions create geometric patterns in the field around you. This explains the power of mantras and sacred sounds. The syllable Om, when chanted, creates a specific geometric pattern that corresponds to the pattern of creation itself. The frequencies of Gregorian chants create geometric harmonies that facilitate meditative states. Sound shapes reality through geometric pattern, and sacred geometry provides the blueprint for harmonious sound. The Star of David, two interlocking triangles, represents the marriage of ascending and descending forces, spirit and matter, masculine and feminine. One triangle points up toward heaven, the other down toward earth. Their union creates a six-pointed star, the Seal of Solomon, said to command both material and spiritual forces. The Sri Yantra of Hindu tradition is one of the most complex and powerful geometric tools for meditation. It consists of 9 interlocking triangles arranged around a central point, creating 43 smaller triangles. To contemplate this pattern is to align consciousness with the process of creation, moving from unity to multiplicity and back again. Sacred geometry also reveals the interconnectedness of all knowledge. Mathematics, music, art, architecture, nature all follow the same underlying patterns. This is why Leonardo da Vinci was simultaneously artist, scientist, engineer. He recognized the unified geometric principles operating across all domains, the single language in which the universe speaks. Your DNA is a geometric structure, a double helix spiral following precise mathematical relationships. The structure is not arbitrary but optimal for storing information, for replication, for expression. Your genetic code is written in the language of sacred geometry, proving that you are not a random assemblage, but a precisely organized expression of cosmic intelligence. When you work consciously with sacred geometry through meditation, visualization, or artistic creation, you are tuning your consciousness to the fundamental frequencies of reality. You are aligning with the underlying order, the divine blueprint. This alignment brings coherence, harmony, and power to your manifestation abilities. The ancients understood that geometric forms are not merely symbols, but actual forces. A pyramid shape, for instance, creates specific energy dynamics regardless of what it is made from. The geometry itself organizes energy in particular ways. This is why sacred geometry appears in spiritual traditions worldwide. The forms are universal because they reflect universal principles. In your own practice, you can use sacred geometric shapes as focus points for meditation, as templates for visualization, as designs for altars or sacred spaces. Working with these patterns connects you to the creative intelligence that designed the cosmos, allowing that intelligence to flow through you more readily. Conclusion: the return to knowing. You have journeyed through hidden principles, forbidden knowledge, secrets that have been guarded for millennia. Yet, if you look closely, you will notice that nothing you have encountered is truly external to you. The principles you have learned about are the same principles operating within your own consciousness. The universe you have explored is the universe you inhabit. The truth you have discovered is the truth you have always been. This exploration was never about gaining something new, but about remembering something ancient. You have not become different through this knowledge. You have become more yourself. The masks have thinned. The veils have lifted. The light that was always shining within you has grown brighter as you remove the obstacles to its expression. The metaphysical laws are not rules imposed upon you from outside, but patterns of your own being made conscious. Mentalism reveals that your mind is the creator of your experience. Correspondence shows that your inner world shapes your outer world. Vibration teaches that you are a frequency being, attracting matching frequencies. Polarity reminds you that contrast is necessary for growth. Rhythm shows that life moves in cycles. Cause and effect establishes that you are the author of your destiny. Gender reveals the creative power of balancing your inner masculine and feminine. These principles have always been operating in your life, whether you were aware of them or not. The difference now is consciousness. You see the patterns. You understand the mechanisms. You recognize your role as creator rather than victim. This shift in awareness changes everything while changing nothing, for the power was always yours. You have simply claimed it. The work now is integration. Knowledge without application remains sterile. You must take these principles into your daily life, test them, practice them, embody them. When challenges arise, remember the law of cause and effect and ask what causes you are generating. When emotions overwhelm you, remember the principle of polarity and transmute the feeling toward its opposite pole. When you feel powerless, remember mentalism and reclaim your creative authority. You stand now at a threshold. Behind you lies the comfort of unconscious living, where you could blame circumstances and claim innocence. Ahead lies the responsibility of conscious creation, where you must acknowledge your role in manifesting your reality. This responsibility can feel heavy, but it is also liberation. For if you created your current reality, even unconsciously, then you can create a different one, consciously. The ancient promise has always been this: know thyself, not as moral instruction, but as practical guidance. To know yourself is to know the universe, for you are made of the same substance, organized by the same principles, animated by the same consciousness. The macrocosm is contained within the microcosm, and the microcosm expresses the macrocosm. You are both the wave and the ocean, the part and the whole. This knowledge was forbidden, not because powerful authorities wanted to keep you in chains, though some certainly have. It was forbidden because truth carried without readiness becomes dangerous. Power wielded without wisdom causes harm. The principles you now understand can be used to manipulate, to control, to serve ego. This is why initiates were tested, why seekers had to prove their character before being trusted with deeper teachings. But the age of secrecy is passing. Consciousness is rising collectively, and what once required decades of discipleship can now be accessed in moments. The veils are thinning. The teachings are emerging. You are part of this great unveiling, this revelation of truth to those ready to receive it. Your readiness is proven by the simple fact that you have stayed with this exploration to its completion. Yet completion is never final. This conclusion is also a beginning. You return now to your ordinary life, but you return changed. What seemed solid now appears fluid. What seemed fixed now reveals itself as responsive. What seemed impossible now glimmers with potential. You carry a secret now, a knowing that reality is far more malleable than consensus believes. Your task is to live this knowing, to walk as a conscious creator in a world of unconscious sleepers. This does not mean preaching to others or trying to convince anyone of what you have learned. It means embodying the principles so fully that your life becomes the teaching. When others ask how you manifest so effortlessly, how you remain so peaceful amidst chaos, how you navigate challenges with such grace, you can share what you know. But first, you must live it. The principles will test you. Life will present situations that challenge your new understanding. You will forget and remember repeatedly. This is natural. Integration takes time. Be patient with yourself. Be compassionate when you fall back into old patterns. And celebrate when you catch yourself, when you remember, when you choose consciously instead of reacting unconsciously. You are becoming an alchemist of consciousness, transforming the lead of unconscious living into the gold of awakened awareness. The laboratory is your daily life. The experiments are your choices. The results are your experiences. Observe carefully, adjust wisely. Trust the process. The great work unfolds through those who dedicate themselves to it with patience and persistence. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are, not waiting passively but actively calling you, sending signs, orchestrating synchronicities, placing teachers in your path, all to wake you from the dream of separation and limitation. This knowledge is your wake-up call, your invitation to step into the fullness of your creative power. Remember always that you are not separate from the source of all creation. You are that source, experiencing itself through the filter of your unique perspective. Every breath you take, the universe breathes. Every thought you think, consciousness thinks itself. Every action you take, the cosmos acts through you. You are the universe's way of knowing itself. And in knowing yourself, you complete the cosmic circle of awareness. If you enjoyed this exploration into the hidden laws of reality, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you the profound wisdom that changes lives. Share this with someone who is ready to awaken to their true creative power. Together, we are lifting the veil, one consciousness at a time. The journey continues, the path unfolds. The truth reveals itself endlessly to those who seek it with sincerity. You are no longer the person who began this journey. You are becoming who you always were beneath the layers of forgetting. Welcome home, Creator. Welcome home,